Right then, one of my all-time favourite ways of fishing is with the rod and line. I suppose it's how I was brought up. Don't get me wrong, most obviously venues like this coming with a pole, top kitting 1, top kitting 2. But to throw a spanner in the works, what I'm doing is actually fishing a long rod, cheeky, today. So I've got an original Matt Parabolic 16-18 foot. I've set it at 16 foot today, which will replicate sort of your traditional top kitting 2-on, which is just going down a slope. Now here at Larford it's a little bit shallower than most venues you're on, but the setup is pretty much identical to what you'd be doing if you were just fishing a pole. Start from the bottom. So basically we've got a nice small reel. Don't need big reels for this at all, for all aspects of waggler fishing. We're doing the traditional waggler later on, so we'll come to that a bit. We've got 0.20 main line on. Now we're going to be hooking some big fish. I don't want to go any lighter than 0.20. Obviously, you know, casting wise, we're not casting at all. We're just sort of laying the rig in and winding it back. So 0.20 main line, coming down to the float. Just move that rod over there. Now what I've got is traditional mono. So you can see there's the reel line where it ends, and then what I've done, I've looped it just onto a normal rig. So I've got traditional mono on. That's 0.20, and we've got 0.18 rig line on, which is coming down to, you'll see there, I'll talk through more about why I've got a BB there in a minute, but we're coming down to a 4/16 float. Now it's only what? It's probably just about 2 foot, maybe not even 2 foot where I am. Now 4/16 you might think it's a bit heavy, but it's very important with these big fish that my bait remains sort of like stationary. I don't want it to move around or anything, and especially with big fish coming into your swim as well. The trouble with them is, like, it's one waft of the fin, that's it, it's going to be spooking your bait, wafting it up and everything. So it's important that I'm using a heavy float, in this case, as I say, 4/16. Shotting wise, coming down here, we've got a series of number 9s. Now, I could have substituted them and just put a few number 8s on, but again, it all comes down to presentation and feeding, obviously, for the big fish. Presentation wise, I think it's far better to have more shot but less weight. So all I've got, sort of like what, a centimetre, maybe just less than a centimetre between them shots, and that allows that rig to, the line, sorry, to sit nice and straight through that, so it looks lovely and natural for the fish. Coming down to the all important hook length, so it's 0.18 main line, and we've got a 0.16 hook length, so we're fishing quite heavy. When you hook into these big fish, it's a completely different way of playing them than on obviously a pole with elastic. Traditionally, when you're hooking them into on a pole, you hook into them, keep your pole low, and generally, with it being shallow water, the fish are kiting like left and right. The beauty of a long rod is, as soon as you hook into them, you can keep that pressure on directly from above them. The fish don't really know what's going on. It's brilliant. Hopefully, you'll get to see it in a bit. I'm waffling again, aren't I? So, 0.16 main line, it's 6 inches. Got a nice big hook on. It's a 14 strong hook. It's a Gamma Power. And then you can see on there, we've just got a little band on the top. Can you get in on that, Rick? Can you zoom right in? And you can see how many times I've whipped round this. I've been through this before, but I think it's so important that you whip him round, well, depending on the thickness of the line, at least sort of 20 times. So you're coming right the way up the shank of that hook. So that band always stays on the top of your hook. It won't twist round or anything like that. It'll always stay there, giving you, you know, complete presentation. And all I've done to finish it off is I've whipped back down 3 or 4 times to make it nice and strong. Then always make sure that line's coming off the front of the hook. It's such an aggressive way of fishing, sort of like in-turned, it's brilliant. Right, so coming back up the rig again, and you're thinking, well, what's he got a BB shot on there for? Well, basically, if you see the distance between that shot and the float, that's what I'm obviously winding through the rod, winding down the line through the rod until that eye catches on that shot, so that I can have that, my rod tip, right over my float. It's just a brilliant way of fishing. You can have a tight line from your rod tip to that float, and you can stay in the same position all the time. Coming on to plumbing up. Now, normally, I'd plumb up to sort of the bottom of the bristle on hard baits. I wouldn't be down here or anything like that, normally, but with it only being shallow and there's quite a bit of wind on today, what I want to do is plumb up to sort of like just at the bottom of the body. So I'm going to be like roughly a couple of inches over depth. We're on a nice slope there. It's a lovely even slope, so I can sort of flick the rig out, so that rig's going to come back nice and natural into the banking. As I said, traditionally I'll be at the bottom of the bristle, but conditions aren't allowing for that today. I've got to go a little bit more over depth.